Joining us now from the U.S. State Department with more is VOA State Department correspondent David Gollust. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
Welcome, David.
Now, Sudan has said it will ignore the decision by the ICC because it's not party to the court. But we also know that the U.S. is not party to that court. Is this an awkward moment for the U.S.?
I think you're right. The United States in 2000 actually signed the Rome Statute that was to set up the ICC. But 2 years later, the Bush administration took the U.S. signature off the Rome Statute. Basically, the Bush administration argued that the International Criminal Court lacked any accountability and that there was a possibility that at some point American servicemen abroad, for instance, might be subject to prosecution by the ICC. At the same time, it is quite clear that the United States has given at least some support to the ICC's investigation of President Bashir. I think you'll recall that in 2004, the State Department did an investigation of the occurrences in Darfur, and Secretary of State Colin Powell at that time called the situation genocide. So the United States, even though it's not a member of the ICC, has given some support to this prosecution.
Now, David, just on that point of genocide, the U.S. was among the first countries to call what was going on in Darfur a genocide, yet Mr. Bashir, as it stands, has not been charged with that. So where does that leave things?
I don't think there's any lack of charges against Mr. Bashir, although the genocide charge has not been lodged. He faces 5 war crimes charges, so an additional genocide charge probably, would not affect the equation very much. The big question now is how will Bashir be actually brought to justice on these charges?
And David, now President Bashir carries the tag an indicted war criminal. How does that impact the interaction between the U.S. officials and those of the Sudanese government?
Well, as you know, the United States doesn't have a full diplomatic relations with Sudan. The United States Embassy in Khartoum is run by a charge d'affaires. Now with this legal situation facing Mr. Bashir, the State Department has made clear that U.S. interaction with him will probably be infrequent, if at all. They say that there will be a study on a case-by-case basis of whether contact actually needs to be made with Mr. Bashir. Another interesting point is that the United States is, of course, the host country of the United Nations. So there is a possibility that at some point, Mr. Bashir might want to address the United Nations, which would leave the United States in another awkward position if there's an international arrest warrant out for Bashir at the time.
Thanks a lot, David. Thanks a lot. David, that is David Gollust, Voice of America State Department correspondent.